So I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past but the future.
What? What does any of that mean? Who talks like that? Anyway, so you saw the signs in the background, right? The fight for reproductive freedom. That brings me to our side when it comes to 2024. Because there's something we have to tackle here now. And very well may hurt to hear. It may offend you. And I want to make sure I remind you of this before I say something that may offend you. If it does offend you, I don't care, all right? This is not your mommy's show. This is your daddy's show. It's not our job to powder anybody's butt for them. Donald Trump is the likely nominee. If not, it's 50-50, right? It's going to be a heck of a race between him and DeSantis. So there's a good chance Donald Trump is the nominee. It is not 2016. Donald Trump is a known quantity now. And for many, many, many reasons, a lot of it is media or whatever, the reasons don't matter. For many, many reasons, Donald Trump is less popular today than he was when he won in 2016. That's simply a fact. Again, I don't care about your opinion on it. We know this. This is a fact by now. He's hurting badly with independents and women. I don't say this to insult him. I say this so the Trump campaign, such as it is, will realize that Donald Trump is not currently in a primary battle. He is, but he isn't. The battle for Donald Trump, if he wants a snowball's chance in hell of walking into the White House again, the battle for Donald Trump is winning back independents and women, as many of them as he possibly can. I'm not telling him to moderate on the America First message. I'm not telling him to move to the center like all those weak losers do, but I am telling you this, and I'm telling you this now. He has a serious problem with independents and women. They hate his freaking guts. His campaign should be aimed at bringing them back in. And don't email me telling me, I'm a woman and I love him. I get it. I understand that. I'm not saying all women. But this is a problem. I hang out with normal people, not political people. 92, 93%, that's how Republican my area is. And I hang out with these people all the time. And to a man, the dudes all love him. And to a woman, they hate his freaking guts. And I've tried, believe me, I've tried to explain to them, what about the results? What about the economy? I have freaking tried. They sit there like this whenever I bring him up. Okay? He doesn't have to make that woman love him. He probably can't. But he has to make sure they don't hate him, or Joe Biden is walking back into the White House again, and Dome is going to be your future president of the United States of America.
It's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
That was a pretty good line, I'll be honest with you. Joining me now, Pedro Gonzalez, senior writer of Chronicles, a magazine of American culture, and I know him as the senior fellow for the American Principles Project. Okay, Pedro, Trump comes out and he says yesterday, I'm not doing any debates. I didn't agree to any debates. Who said we would do these debates? And I don't believe he's going to be up 40 points by the time it's debate stage, if he even is around. Even if he is up that now, he's not going to be up that then. But if he is, I'd say it's the smart move. Is it the bravest move? No, but why would you debate if you're really up 40 points? I'd skip him too. I think it's smart.
Right. Well, Jesse, thanks for having me. Honestly, I think the thing that really upsets me is that we're being robbed of fantastic one-liners like that. Because I agree. I think that was one of the things that I think made Trump such a phenomenon, is his ability to just completely mock and humiliate and undress his opponents regardless of who they were. And that's exactly why, for example, I think kind of related to this is why the worst people in America are happy that Tucker Carlson is no longer on the air. Why? Well, because apart from telling the truth every night, Tucker was also very good at making powerful people look and sound stupid. And that is not really the Trump that we have anymore. You've got this Trump who's, on the one hand, you can make the argument that you just did that, well, the polls have him up right now, but I actually don't think that means much because, there's an elephant in the room, and that elephant in the room has not entered the race officially yet to challenge Trump, at which point things could rapidly and dramatically change. But more importantly, I think that it speaks to this kind of fundamental shift in Trump, where in the Trump of 2016, you had this really confident kind of force of nature, and now you've got a guy that's kind of like angrily lashing out that all of the Republican Party processes are not run by him in any ways. Why should he debate? No one has the right to challenge him. It's this very kind of like under siege mindset that you've got coming from Trump, which doesn't really exude confidence.
Do you think he's really up like that? I mean, Donald Trump, I would argue, is probably still the most popular Republican in America. 40 points more popular than DeSantis, I don't know, but I would guess he's still the most popular Republican. Do you think it's state by state wise a lot closer than that?
It really is difficult to know because, again, the only, I think, viable for Republican voters, the only viable alternative to Trump has not entered the race yet. We actually don't know if DeSantis is going to enter the race yet, right? Because look at the rest of the field and the people that are actually in the runnings. And I mean, I think the polling for those people actually does reflect reality. But right now around DeSantis, it's sort of like, do you support him for president? Well, he's not officially running yet. And there's all these questions as to whether or not he will run. And maybe we can actually get an answer by looking at how the Trump campaign is acting toward DeSantis. Because if it's actually true that if those massive poll numbers do reflect reality, then why is Trump doing things like his campaign his campaign advertisement that he released the other day? It's in focus entirely on DeSantis. Whereas Biden's big campaign ad that was also released in the last few days was entirely focused on Trump. So basically, Biden is running a general election, and Trump seems entirely focused on not Biden, but DeSantis. And now you've got this story that Trump is reportedly trying to actually make it so that essentially try to keep DeSantis out of the race, because whether or not he enters the race seems contingent on this resign to run law being passed. It basically allows DeSantis to run for president without resigning the governorship. Trump is trying to intervene reportedly to prevent that from happening, which would effectively keep DeSantis out of the race. So again, if Trump is so far and away ahead of him, why does everything he's doing seems to suggest that internally they're not quite as confident, and in fact they're afraid of DeSantis?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I've thought the same thing. I've spoken to you about that before. He acts like it's really, really close. He acts like it's anyone's game. He doesn't act like he's 45 points up. I suspect they have internal polling showing this race to be very close. All right, let's focus on DeSantis for a moment. So DeSantis is overseas. Well, here he is.
Xi clearly wants to take Taiwan at some point. He's got a certain time horizon. He could be emboldened to maybe shorten that horizon. But I think ultimately what I think China respects is strength. So I think our policy should really be, to shape the environment in such a way that really deters them from doing that. I think if they think the costs are going to outweigh whatever benefits, then I do think that they would hold off. And that should be our goal.
Pedro, I love Donald Trump's foreign policy. A lot of people did. You probably did yourself. I don't know what Ron DeSantis's is yet. I haven't heard a lot that I dislike. It's not like I'm nervous about it, but I don't know. What is it?
Well, it's difficult because he's never been the president, right? So we can evaluate him based on what he says and some of the things that he's done in Congress. And I think that it speaks to DeSantis not being the neoconservative Trojan horse that people are trying to paint him as, by the fact that we can look at, for example, he opposed arming so-called Syrian moderates who were not actually moderates. I mean, these people were vicious killers. And DeSantis was opposed to that because he understood that, look, in the Middle East, these fairy tales of like good guy versus bad guy, these things don't actually work in certain parts of the world. and the moderates are just as insane and bloodthirsty as the bad guys, right? And so I think his ability to kind of be deliberative and to explain why he takes the stances he does, and then to shift his positions based on the information that's available, it shows that he's not an ideologue. Some people obviously interpret that as, well, he's just a kind of weather vane, but no, actually that's called leadership. Look, people have completely forgotten that we actually came very close to bombing Iran under Trump. I was really livid about this, and so was Tucker Carlson, because you had the Trump administration basically threatening to specifically target these heritage sites that go back to Roman times, sites that go back to antiquity, saying that we're going to deliberately destroy these things just to kind of infuriate Iran. And Trump changed his position on Iran basically in response to his base telling him, we don't want a war with Iran. And so I think that it's actually okay for people to make decisions based on the information that they have. But it's just difficult to evaluate DeSantis because he's never been president. But I think that the most that you can say, the truest thing you can say, is that he's not a neoconservative. The neoconservatives hate him. Bill Kristol, an arch neoconservative, David Frum, like, name your neoconservative villain. They all hate DeSantis. They all seem to hate him more than Trump.
Support the First TV today and get instant access to exclusive specials like Who is Ron DeSantis, the history of FBI scandals, and America's worst presidents. Visit thefirsttv.com/support or download the First TV app to become a supporter and start watching today.